You have probably noticed it, even if you did not say it out loud. Your favorite chocolate bar is smaller than it used to be. It costs more. It might even taste a little different, a little cheaper. You are not imagining it. Somewhere between 2023 and 2026, chocolate quietly turned into a luxury. But the shrinking bar in your hand is hiding one of the most quietly brutal stories in the entire global economy. Because in exactly the same period, cocoa, the key ingredient, hit the highest price in recorded history. And the farmers who grow it got poorer.
Stop and sit with that.
A record-breaking boom that made the poor poorer. That is not a glitch in the system. That is the system. This is politics in everything. Today, chocolate. Start with a simple fact of geography. More than 60% of the world's cocoa grows in just 2 countries, sitting side by side in West Africa, Ghana and the Ivory Coast. Almost every chocolate bar on Earth begins on a small farm in that narrow strip of land. Now, in 2023 and 2024, that strip got hammered. Extreme heat, in places touching 50 degrees Celsius, followed by punishing drought, wrecked the harvest. And here is the iron law of markets. When supply collapses, price explodes. Cocoa futures rocketed upward until in December 2020, where they hit an all-time record of nearly $13,000 a ton. So, on paper, the people who grow cocoa were about to become rich. On paper. Here is the first trap. A cocoa farmer in Ghana or the Ivory Coast does not sell at that glittering New York price. In both countries, the government sets a fixed price for cocoa called the farmgate price, and it is set in advance, before the season even begins. So picture the farmer. The world price of the exact thing growing in their field is tripling live on the news. And they are locked into a number that was decided months earlier, before anyone knew the boom was coming. The greatest cocoa price in history roared past, in a market they were never allowed to stand in. They watched their own crop become gold, and were paid for dirt. But surely you think the next season they set the price high, and the farmer finally gets their reward. And this is where the story turns from unfair to almost cruel. Because as fast as the price rocketed up, it came crashing down. By early 2026, a swelling surplus and cooling demand sent cocoa into free fall, losing around 3/4 of its value in under a year, tumbling back toward $3,000 to $4,000 a ton. The boom was over. And now, watch very carefully what the fixed price system did to the farmer on the way down. When the price was sky high, the farmer was locked out of the gains. But when the price collapsed, the fixed price was cut hard and fast. In March 2026, the Ivory Coast slashed the guaranteed farmgate price by 57%, more than half, effectively overnight. Ghana cut its price by nearly 30%. So tally it up. The boom, farmer gets nothing. The bust, farmer eats the loss. Heads, they lose. Tails, they lose. And it gets worse because with prices crashing, an estimated 200,000 tons of cocoa were left rotting in warehouses and ports, beans that nobody would buy at a fair price, growing mold while farmers who grew them went unpaid. And do not think this is only about one strange boom and bust. Zoom out to a completely normal year, and the imbalance is baked in. On average, the cocoa farmer receives about 6% of the retail price of the chocolate bar you buy. 6%. Meanwhile, the global chocolate industry pulls in over $200 billion in revenue. And the average cocoa farming household in the Ivory Coast? It earns roughly $2,700 a year, which works out to about 78 cents per person per day. That is below the World Bank's line for extreme poverty. Read that again. The people who grow the essential ingredient of a $200 billion industry live in extreme poverty. And poverty that deep produces a predictable, devastating result. According to research for the U.S. Department of Labor, an estimated 2.1 million children work on cocoa farms in the Ivory Coast and Ghana, many of them in what are formally classed as the worst forms of child labor. This is not a story about a few rogue farms. It is arithmetic. When a family survives on 78 cents a day, sending a child into the fields instead of a classroom is not a moral failing. It is survival. The heartbreaking truth is this: the cheapness of your chocolate and the presence of those children are not two separate problems. They are the same fact, viewed from opposite ends of the supply chain. So if the farmer captures neither the boom nor a living wage, then where does all the value go? It flows to everyone standing downstream from the tree. The traders and speculators betting on cocoa's price in New York and London. The grinders, the processors, the manufacturers, and the great chocolate brands. Now, when cocoa spiked, the big companies did feel a squeeze. Mondelez, the maker of Cadbury and Oreo, warned of a $500 million hit to a single quarter. But watch what they did with that cost. They handed it to you. Smaller bars, higher prices, cheaper recipes. This has a name: shrinkflation. You paid more, the farmer earned less, and the distance between those two facts is precisely where the modern chocolate industry makes its home. And now the cruelest layer of all, the one that turns this from unfair to almost unforgivable. Remember what started this entire spiral?
Climate change.
The heat and the drought that wrecked the West African harvest. But consider who the cocoa farmer actually is. Someone earning under $1 a day, with one of the smallest carbon footprints on the entire planet. They did almost nothing to cause global warming, and yet they stand first in line to be destroyed by it, while the comfortable world that did cause it merely pays a little more at the checkout, or shrugs at a slightly smaller bar. This is climate change in one bite, a machine for quietly mailing the bill to the people who never ordered the meal. So, one last time, look at the chocolate bar. What is it really? It is a small, sweet lesson in how global markets hand out risk and reward. The farmer absorbs all of the risk, the weather, the crash, the fixed price they never agreed to, and captures almost none of the reward. The people far from the tree, who will never once touch a cocoa pod, capture almost all of it. The greatest boom in the history of the crop flowed straight past the grower, like a river rushing past a man dying of thirst. And that is the part to hold on to. This was not a market breaking down. The market worked exactly as it was built to. So the real question your chocolate leaves behind is not why has it become so expensive. It is expensive for whom, and cheap at whose expense. A smaller bar, a record price, and a farmer paid for dirt. Everything is political, even the treat melting in your hand. This is politics in everything. If this changed the way that next square tastes, subscribe and tell us in the comments. Would you pay more for chocolate if you knew the farmer actually got it? Next time, a new arena, same game.